Hey, we could see you guys there. We can
Oh
see through
no.
the screen
Oh
now.
no. Oh
We
no.
got
We're plants.
we
They've caught
got
on to us. Hide. Hide Frank Marshall.
It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Jason Ward, and this is Rob.
Hey.
He's the Sketchcraft. Hey, my name's Rob.
Sketchy craft.
I'm sketchy.
I'm just hanging out in my underworld. Sketchy craft.
I thought you were going to say I'm hanging out in my underwear. I was like, hey, more power to you, dude.
My red rocket shorts. Me and Calvin.
Yeah, it's summer, man. You got to ventilate. I get it.
And my otter pop.
Yeah. So, how's it going? How's it going?
It's going good. I'm just waiting for them scoops, Jason. Give me the scoops, man.
Yeah. Not really a scoop, but today, last night, sometime yesterday, StarWars.com put up an article that I found to be pretty good, rather refreshing, if you will. It just kind of lays out the overall plan for Palpatine in the sequel trilogy era, and it kind of brings in sort of the bullet points of all of the main stuff, which I think is good, a good refresher, because you love the books or hate them. You read a book, you read Aftermath in 2015 or something like that, and you're like, hey, it's 2021. What happened in that book? No, I don't. I don't have a week to read a whole book. Not
even Chuck Wendig knows. He's like, what happened in that
He
book?
has no idea. But yeah,
I feel like they watched the show.
Mm-hmm.
Call me crazy.
They just sit there and they just write the whole thing down. They're like, we got to get on this.
Everybody, they're like, Lost Stars doesn't count, huh? Alrighty.
Oh, you know what? F you, Rob. You wanna talk about Lost Stars? Here we go, Rob.
Look, in my defense, it's not a hill I want to die on. All right, you guys can take that hill. I will say this: that came from the way Claudia Gray was talking post Lost Hills. This is before Bloodlines.
Yeah,
Lost Hills.
Lost Tales. Lost Tales.
Write that one down.
An erotic space adventure.
With the Red Shoe Diaries, right?
Yeah, they actually have tales. It's like a whole furry thing. Not judging.
Twilight
not
adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have
Lost
red
head
tails, green tails.
I was writing red tails, and I had the idea for green tails.
No, that's just depressing, dude. So anyway, what did they say? Oh yeah, so she was doing an interview about before Bloodlines that it was like a YA division. It wasn't really real, but I just think the popularity that took off so much that now they've interwoven it.
Yeah,
so, cream rises to the top.
Yeah, all of even Ray's journal is what happens in there is supposed to be respected. I like I said, to reiterate, your kind of general thesis was, yeah, it's canon until it's in the way. That's kind of I
still believe that.
Yeah, no,
I don't care what StarWars.com. Look, you and I have been going to StarWars.com since pretty much the day they launched that shit. With that teaser for episode 7, remember?
Or I mean for the special edition one, like special edition artwork. Yeah,
the special edition artwork, right? That was the first time I saw the Drew Struzan artwork,
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think Ray's journal will all of a sudden just become an inconsistency if they need to use Ray in a movie in the future, and it turns out Ray didn't go to this place ever. Whatever happened, whatever the thing happens to be, they'll just be like, oh no, and that's that.
Ray's other journal.
Wait, did you want to come on today, Geek? Because you could have come on today, but let me know. Am I on this one? But you're on the chat at least.
He's like, no, I'm furious.
Yeah, swinging through comics. So I doubt Palpatine could have planned for you. Hey, it's the Mike Papas. How's it going, Mr. Palpatine? What the hell do they mean Palpatine's stand cast? Ray's dad was a strand cast?
Well, I tried reading through it. Right. Yeah. And I got to the Battle of Jakku, and then I just get mad because I'm like, that's something we should have seen in the fucking films, man.
Yeah.
Even in a flashback, if we see the aftermath of that battle in episode 7, open up to a cutscene of that or a flashback in 8 or 9 or something. You know what I mean? it's just like someone's like, all right, I mean, just write these in and we'll do it, and then problem solved, fixed. You know, like, I guess, man. You know, like, I just wish we'd seen all of it. You know,
Mr. Alexander Esquire says, "Are you going to do the Kessel Toy Run again this Christmas?" I hope so. We'll have to see how things go and what the situation, the world looks like, and everything, because that is one of the things that makes doing all of this stuff always worth it. Hello, Mr. Josh. Dez is here, so watch out, everybody, because Dez bites. King Porter
Des says,
Mr. Mike says hello to Mark Hamilton. What about us, dude? What about us?
The chat's like, I prefer the people in the chat to the show.
Those old guys just talk, and we're over here. That's where the real show is.
We need those things where we can be like big baby faces, like on Instagram or Snapchat, right?
Oh, like those crazy masks.
The mocaps, right? Where it just changes your face in real time. So we don't always have to be balding white dudes, right?
Yeah, maybe I'm just I'm a giant crazy cow. That'll Jakku
I'm
should
a
be
movie.
Yeah. Okay, so let me go over and pull up the article.
You know, Mark, that's a smart freaking idea. Why isn't the Battle of Jakku a standalone movie?
Is it?
I'm
all for it.
So
this is by Emily Shukani. I'm sorry, I can't say your name correctly, but it sounds like a Star Wars name, so you're definitely in the right place.
Pretty awesome, actually.
Shukuni, maybe?
Well, I wish I had a Star Wars name, you know? Mine's Dooass. It's Dooass. It goes Dwayne, it doesn't work. Trust me, it's just a joke.
Star Wars Inside Intel, Palpatine's contingency plan. So,
summon the bad robot.
Star Wars Inside Intel is a StarWars.com feature where Lucasfilm Story Group member Emily Shukani, I hope I'm saying that anywhere near right, whose job is to know as much about the galaxy far, far away as possible, explores obscure facts about Star Wars lore and continuity. In this installment, Emily connects the dots of Palpatine's contingency plan, which I find very helpful. Goes on to say, although Poe Dameron might not have understood how Palpatine returned in Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, neither did we, and was understandably exasperated at the news, it was all part of the contingency plan, a plan that anticipated Palpatine's death and prepared for his return to power. And then you just see him like chilling in his chair right here, watching TV. I think he's watching Judge Judy right here.
I guarantee you he is, because, did I tell you that? All right, so let's hold on to that thought right there. So, and there's, gosh darn it, so there's a podcast, right, called the Game Maker's Notebook, the AIAS Academy of Interactive Sciences, and it's interviews with people in the industry. And they interviewed Jesse Harlan, who was the audio director for LucasArts for the 10 years.
Okay, and
his first job, when he got hired at LucasArts, was one of his first jobs was to work on Episode 3, the game, right? So he got to go see a work print of Episode 3 on videotape. This occurs at 1 hour and 20 minutes in the interview, if you want to listen to it. So he goes into a room at the Skywalker Ranch, and they put in the videotape, and he's watching it. And there's some fun stuff, like there's early temp score music, which is like classical music. Yoda's model's like a low poly T-pose that just slides around the screen, which is funny. But then somewhere through it, right? And I think he said like around the time Obi-Wan with the little dragon dude. I think that's what he said.
Boga.
Somewhere around there, 8 minutes of the movie go away, and it's Judge Judy. Like someone had taped over the work print for Episode 3 with 8 minutes of Judge Judy. So when you said he's like watching Judge Judy, I'm like, that's who did it.
You know, on a side note, last night there was this like missing video from the FBI about somebody who tried to gas Disney years ago, like a cult. And somebody bought a VHS tape, and it's just like some talk shows, and then all of a sudden the missing video's on there. It's on YouTube. Super strange. People just are just like, you know what? I gotta watch Judge Judy. People are like, you know what? I need this FBI evidence. Anyways, so Palpatine was a talented manipulator, from killing his own Sith master to creating conflicts and conspiracies within the Republic Senate, to orchestrating a galaxy-wide war and taking power as the Emperor. As a Sith Lord, Palpatine craved power but feared losing it. This compelled him to design a backup plan, officially known as the contingency. Oh, really trying hard there, Palpatine. Come on. It should have had a better name if you're a bad guy, like a real bad guy who's going to make it. In the event that he died, Palpatine's plot would go into effect. And then we see him here, and he's like, this is my new idea. I'm a fishbowl man. I live in a fishbowl face.
it kind of reminds me of, like, I was thinking fishbowl was some of that concept art for Tim Burton's Superman Lives, where you see Brainiac as like this disembodied head in a bowl. You know, it's very 50s sci-fi. You know, it came, you know, the contingency from Plan Exegol 9, you know.
I kind of let myself go a little bit during COVID. Can't lie. I kind of wish I had one of these. So like when I go on a date, I could just be in that. Let's be like, oh, hello. How's it going? Oh, look good, don't I? So
pay no attention to the body. Look at the head in the floating glow.
so in this part meant to just burn Rob over and over again. Originally introduced in Claudia Gray's Star Wars Lost Stars as a concept, the contingency itself began in Chuck Wendig's Aftermath trilogy. After Emperor Palpatine was unexpectedly betrayed and killed by Darth Vader, and the word of his death, along with the destruction of the second Death Star, traveled across the Empire, the contingency unfolded as planned. Sentinel droids were dispatched to Imperials throughout the galaxy and advise them on the next steps, starting with Operation Cinder. See, now he starts to step it up. He's like, okay, I'm just getting going. The contingency, whatever. But now he's like, Operation Cinder. Like this sounds like a punk band that's political but not too political. You know what I mean?
If this were a 90s rock band, it would be SYNDER, right? And they'd have frosted tips and they'd paint their face.
Oh, and it would have like, it would say ABY6 or something like that.
Order Y2K.
Yeah, right. Blink 182. Operation Cinder sought to destroy Imperial and New Republic planets alike, with the goal to destroy sensitive information on other liabilities. The operation was carried out in various ways, including the use of climate disruption arrays, which, once fired upon a planet, could create catastrophic weather conditions, vortex detonators, a customized explosive that made the planet of Necronus uninhabitable.
Oh no, not Necronus!
Fucking love Necronus in the summer, man. And now we can't do it. It's just like Earth now.
Capitalism.
Yeah. Try having wildfires in California, Necronus. Whatever. And the Imperial Navy, who engages in battles on planets that attempted to resist the operations, such as Naboo. Burnin' Khan, which, by the way, I believe is the Burning Man of the Star Wars convention circuit planet world thing. Burnin' Khan.
Yeah, it comes 3 months after Wookiee Palooza. You know?
Yeah. No, at Burnin' Khan is where Princess Leia got her first tramp stamp. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's canon. I think Claudia Gray confirmed that.
Orobesh stamp.
Yeah. As mentioned in The Mandalorian, how do you say this one? Abanito and more. Operation Cinder was devastating, but it also solidified many allegiances in the newly erected, I said erected, New Republic, and saw many Imperials defect.
Such our generation.
Yeah, due to the brutality of the operation. So there you go. It's like Palpatine's like, you know what? If I can't have you, Galaxy, no one can. That's kind of a little bit of a bitch move by Palpatine there, I'm gonna say. But so one major element of the contingency was about a year after the Emperor's death at the Battle of Jakku. Led by self-appointed counselor of the Empire, Gallius Rax.
Again, now we're into the first and last names. Go ahead.
Which also sounds like a barbecue place. Come down to Gallius Rax's and get the best ribs in the galaxy.
You laugh, but they put a diner in episode 3, so it's possible.
It's true. Yeah, Dax. Yeah, Dex's Diner is in direct competition with Gallius Rax's. They're a bit better. They have space margaritas.
Rax is the Texas Roadhouse of Star Wars.
Yeah, you only take a girl you're really into there. Otherwise, you just go to like you go to Dex's after you're hungover. He brought the remainder of the Empire to Jakku in a last stand against the New Republic. The majority, and by the way, I have to say, New Republic should have dropped that in the big picture, because when there's another republic, is that one just called Another Republic? What's the next republic?
It starts Lisa Bonet, and it's when they go to Republic College, you know what I mean? And they learn all about the complexities of the political patriarch.
And C-3PO gets some of those like little like Ben Franklin spectacles like that one guy used to wear.
He gets a red arm, and then eventually gets red eyes, and then it's acid flashbacks for the next 60 years. You know?
The majority of the Imperials involved in the battle believed they would retake the galaxy with a victory, but the contingency planned for this to be the conclusion to the Empire.
Planned to lose, right? Like, that sounds familiar. No, we meant to not win the election.
Yeah, no, it was stolen. Rax was originally supposed to have the entire planet of Jakku destroyed. He's coming back in August. Don't worry, guys. A lot of Palpatine's going to return. Palpatine's coming back in August, guys. I swear.
Only on Disney Plus.
The pillow guy knows all the Sith shit. Trust me. With the Imperials as further punishment for the failing Palpatine. For the failing New York Times. What the unaccounted for the plan was the Grand Admiral Ray Sloan.
They listen to the podcast. Yes, just throw me under the bus.
I'm telling you, dude. Yeah, they are teaching you a lesson in real time. In real time. No.
Now they're gonna start following me with fake accounts. You know,
they're all
like, it'll be fake Emily. What's her face? Emily S is good. Now I don't get the honor of the real ones. You know. Like,
yeah.
Whatever.
The fake Kathleen Kennedy account could follow you too. And underlying
anywhere.
Yeah, of Gallius Rax, also once again a great barbecue place. Sloan was kept in the dark about the contingency and Rax's involvement. As such, Sloan began to believe that Rax was deviating the Empire from its intended glory. On Jakku, Sloan confronted Rax, where she shot and killed him. Now,
hold on. Don't you think it's weird that we have a hero, basically a hero of the Battle of Jakku, whose name is Rey, and then we start the movie on another character who's stranded on Jakku, whose name is Rey? Isn't this all odd? Like, that's like two Hans. No. It would be awfully coincidental, right? Like,
I could be wrong about this, but from memory, it happened in a way where I think she was doing the story when Rey was still Kira.
That would make a lot more sense.
And then there was something else that's on the tip of my mind's tongue. That is, it was like a typo as well as how they got the name. It was kind of like what's his name? The Assidious sounding guy. Rax appointed Sloan to the contingency and urged her to retreat to the unknown regions with Brendel Hux. So Daddy Hux, as we call him, to create a new and better empire.
His first name is Brendel?
Brendel, yeah. Brendel Fly. Brendel Fly Hux.
Right. Brendel Fly. They could have got Goldblum.
They could have. Goldblum needs to be in Star Wars tomorrow. Oh God! Just on a side note, I found that one show he did on Disney Plus absolutely insufferable. I was just like, no, this does not work for me.
It's not for us.
Yeah,
we're not the intended audience.
I don't even know what is, but I don't think it's human. With Rax dead and thanks to Sloan, Jakku was saved. Who gives a shit? That place sucks. They pretty much say that in
hey, we saved Death Valley.
Yeah. Boom! Hey, they gassed Naboo. What do you call it's uninhabitable now? But Jakku is fine.
All right.
Good work, New Republic. Rax's plan to completely destroy the Empire did not unfold because he was too involved with that savory barbecue sauce. With remnants of the Empire continuing for years following the official end of the war, Sloan would heed Rax's final demands and head to the unknown regions. I remember the first time I headed to the unknown regions.
Yeah, I just went there.
I never stopped. head there all the time.
They're called the unknown regions, and you go there. You know what I mean? I know. I'll figure my way around. Where are they? I don't know.
Yeah, we're over at Rax's Barbecue over by what's it called? Exable? It's like a bowling alley, I think. Is where Palpatine's.
It's
Exable?
the Exxon Mobil. It's where you used to work, buddy.
It's an Exxon. It's an Exxon gas station. It makes sense.
It's where the Imperials just play guitar and ignore their customers.
We're self-serve here on Exegol, all right? We serve ourselves.
They didn't see those monks running to help Palpatine. Shouldn't they bum rush the stadium? You think they would just help him?
Yeah. You know that one guy in Rogue One who's like Palpatine's little creepy cult member? I think he's in Rebels. You know, the guy who's like at Palpatine's at Vader's castle.
Okay.
Vader's little cult member.
Yeah.
You think that guy like has to change his like colostomy bag and stuff? Like, you think that's what that guy's job like really is? Because he seems to be really into art in the cartoon. I think it's the same guy in the cartoon. But anyways,
I imagine Vader has a little carbonite thing in the bag that just freezes it, so he has to pick up the ice cubes.
he has a little carbonite block, and he's all, "This is my wiener. It's burnt. I am keeping it frozen until the science catches up, and then they can reattach it."
Completely derailed.
Sorry, I can't help it. But I mean, it did burn off, and never forget that. For many years prior to his demise, Palpatine sought immortality on the Sith planet of Exegol. It was on this planet that he and his cultist, known as the Sith Eternal, experimented with cloning. Exegol was also where Palpatine built his Final Order fleet.
I got a question. Is this how they spent their pandy? Like figuring this out?
I think so. They're like, how do we make all this shit line up?
I never want to hear people bitch about fan fiction ever again. That's all I want to say, buddy. That's all. I just putting it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't really like, they didn't, during the production of the movie, I was hearing things from people working on the movie that I think they kept changing how that fleet got there. And I think the original plan was that Palpatine had siphoned off parts of the original fleet and hid it there, and that's what bust out, because all of a sudden they just it makes no sense that they built all new all old Star Destroyers out there somehow, and then they built all new Stormtrooper armor made of red. It's like, what are you guys doing? So anyways,
I have a suggestion. Hold on.
Yeah,
we should make our own Rise of Skywalker fan, and it's one change. We're gonna take this entire thing here on StarWars.com and make it the opening crawl. Yeah. So we know what the fuck is going on.
Fucking at some part, John Williams just starts playing like Stairway to Heaven because he just like has to fill up the time. It's like Bohemian Rhapsody, Stairway to Heaven. Most of the main Star Wars themes are all in there. Indiana Jones,
frightening. Here we go, lightning, Sith lightning. Da da da.
Yeah.
It's Order Cinder.
and then you get this article by the story group on StarWars.com that goes, yeah, that was the space opera Palpatine and Vader went to in episode 3. Didn't you pay attention? Did you see that little part? It was the hint. Anyways, Exegol was also where Palpatine built his Final Order fleet. As an immortal Sith, Palpatine would reign supreme. Taco supreme. over the galaxy with his Sith armada. This would be the grand finale of the contingency.
The Sith Eternal are like, stop making Foff happen, Palpatine. It's never going to happen.
Not going to work, dude. So, it was known only to a select few. So when Palpatine was killed on the second Death Star,
okay.
So they do say he's killed on the second Death Star.
Oh, all right, yeah.
But his
he did die.
Yeah, his consciousness was transferred to a clone of his own body on Exegol, but the body was too weak to contain him. That's how I feel. That's how I feel about my body. Yeah.
Isn't this interesting that we initially in development start off with a movie directed by JJ, written by JJ, where it's going to have Luke's severed floating hand in space, right? Yeah. And we end up with somehow the consciousness of Palpatine travels through space. Like, this is all, and it's just a little interesting thing for me. Like we end up with transferring consciousness from the floating hand. Like, it's
Dude, if you went to Burning Con that year, you would know why. So when Palpatine was killed on the second Death Star, his consciousness transferred to a clone of his own body on Exegol, but the body was too big to contain him. This led to Palpatine creating more clones.
Clonunaki. They're known as the Clonunaki.
So when it says and Strandcast, my guess, this is just a guess, Mr. Mike Pappas, is that it means it's not a direct clone, but maybe my guess is strands of his DNA to essentially make an offspring as you would, but not a direct copy of himself, but a Matt Smith, of himself, in the hopes that one would offer a more suitable vessel for him to inhabit. But that's just a guess. Okay. All of this effort ultimately culminated in Rey. Little Ray.
Wait, the first Ray or the new Ray? This is EY, not AE. Gotcha.
This is Ray Nobody. Just kidding. She's Palpatine's granddaughter. The daughter of one of Palpatine's Strandcast. I find like that's sort of interesting wording. It probably doesn't mean anything, but it says one of his Strandcast. And we do know that most of them died or were derpy or something. But it makes me wonder if there could be more Rey types out there from this plan that could someday lead to a new story. That's big.
So she's not his granddaughter.
No.
She's his daughter.
No. Basically, his Strandcast is essentially his son, and it's the daughter of the Strandcast. So she's his Strandcast grandpa. Yes. I guess that's how you'd put it.
That's a whole thing I never knew I was gonna have to learn.
I think that's when you get a new webcam like I did today. That's might look better. I hope it does, if you guys can tell or not. But I think a Strandcast is when you do a Star Wars podcast all about genetics for no reason. She was the perfect vessel. Nice. But her father and mother did everything they could to hide her from her sinister grandfather.
This sounds familiar.
You mean the sinister Strandcast grandpa? That's what Strandcast papa. That's what they call him. Destiny and the contingency would catch up to Rey in the form of the First Order, led by one of Palpatine's evil duplicates called Snoke. Although Snoke was unsuccessful in bringing Rey to Palpatine and was unexpectedly killed by his protege Kylo Ren, Palpatine oops, you fucked up again, Palpatine. Palpatine continued to pull the strings in order to reel in his granddaughter so he could finally achieve ultimate power. And there you see him going, Okay. So when
Mace Windu's like, motherfucker, all I needed was 2 sabers.
Oh man, I could have just borrowed one from my dead friends from a few minutes ago. With the final order operational,
they are all on the floor, right? There's like 9 lightsabers on the floor, right?
In Palpatine's journal, that page is called 4 on the floor. Yeah.
Where'd the bodies go? Can we do an edit where they have to we just move them up, like, the Jabba move that they did with Han, where when they walk around the building, they're just walking on the bodies.
I bet he just left them there and just walked up to them, kick him a little bit, and for a couple of days.
We could shoot some inserts where the foot just kicks the body, right?
And then it's the button, Masamita, clean this fucking place up. Eventually he just we thought you wanted them there. So
Masamita, forget,
that little weirdo. With the final order operational, it slowly deployed from Exegol and pledged to destroy planet after planet. The Resistance worked quickly to counter this new threat. Rey accepted her role as Jedi and Rebel and arrived on Exegol to bring a conclusion to the conflict. Palpatine planned for Rey to partake in the ritual, which would allow him to inhabit her body and live forever. But Rey had other plans. See, that's
contingencies.
See that's what's kind of interesting right there is it does confirm that Palpatine was doing a switcheroo. Basically a Star Wars Freaky Friday, but Rey doesn't get to get freaky on the Friday.
It's Freaky Force Friday.
Yeah. With the help of Ben Solo and Jedi Past, also a Christmas story.
Jedi Past that.
Mm-hmm. It's very Scroogey.
Whatever.
Rey
Yeah.
took her final steps and defeated the Phantom Menace once and for all. Nice work there, author. Very nice work.
Now I want Carol Kane as a Force ghost. You missed this. Punch him in the face.
Yeah. Watch Scrooge if you're too young to ever have seen it. It's a good movie.
Carol Kane stole my heart, bro. It's one of my first big crushes in that film. I was like, who is this woman?
You're crazy and I'm into it.
Yes.
And then they asked, did you learn something new about the contingency? Check back bi-weekly to learn something new about the Star Wars galaxy. Wait, bi-weekly? What is this SJW stuff? Sorry.
Man, look, I don't mean to goof on this.
Yeah.
It's just, it flows from me. You know? I feel like to get a real good read on it, one, I think you can, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ben would probably really give me like those serious, okay, this actually lines up and this makes total sense.
And I'm going to cut you. I'm going to cut you if you keep it up.
This is a bit of a stretch, man.
Yeah.
You know, like this is like, you know, you played the West End RPG game back in the 90s and they sometimes.
No, I had it. I had it and I read it, but I never played it.
Okay, but you read the books and you'd see sometimes there'd be little lore bits in there that would tie things together in a way that made sense.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been the mother of all ties. Like this somehow, like it's crazier than Lost when you think about the plot of Lost, right? Like if you wrote the plot of Lost down, I like the show, but if you write it down, it's pretty nuts, right?
Well, if you wanted to critique it, one of the things I would say is post Harry Potter. Harry Potter also has a batshit insane thing with, you know, the Horcruxes and stuff. But what you end up having is you have an element of the hero that is the secret weapon that takes it down. It's sort of like, in a weird way, you know, the Galen Erso Death Star thing.
I feel with those stories that the reason why, you know, people were really into them was that there is that wild thing, but the focus seems to be more of that daily life, you know, that, what do they call that? Like the anime where it's just about what you do in daily life, you know, like Nichijou would be one of those where it's just them going to school and having to deal with character interactions and bullies. And, you know, it's just got that.
Yeah.
And this, there's not enough time for that in 3 movies.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
So.
Yeah, I said, I think that their element of that is Palpatine is her Strandcast granddaddy. And with that in mind, he needs her. So that puts her there. But she could have just been a huge asshole to the Empire or to the whatever they're called, the First Order. And that would have got her there too. He just would, I just want to use you because I could use you like a Darth Vader. So in a way, like that's the one thing about it where I'm like, there should have been something else. Like there should have been a moment in the movie where they have the big talk where it all comes out. Ray Sloan's not down for it, realizes that it's you know, defects, or Finn knows about it from when he was a storm, something like that. And then
when I was cleaning up trash, I found this plan.
yeah, or
it's contingency.
Or Finn and the master hacker from 7 are able to steal documents that, like, you know what I mean, lay it out and then they figure it out. But yeah, that guy's such a good actor too. That was one of my favorite scoops. He's so good. I love that guy. He needs his own Star Wars spinoff where he's just.
He looks like Johnny Barracuda from the Danger Girl comic book series. If you've ever read that,
I haven't, but I like that name.
Yeah, Johnny Barracuda.
What do you call it? Yeah. So I kind of like the actual overall that Palpatine has a huge plan that in a weird way is, I don't think it's as good as his Order 66 prequel plan.
Kill them all.
But it's in the same
slightly more complicated than kill them all.
Well, I mean, you know, like you know, become the Chancellor of the Galaxy and then pit both sides against each other to unite them under myself, and you know what I mean, and off the Jedi in the process with this secret clone code I put in, you know what I mean, all that stuff. It's like it's out there, but you know, I do feel like though that I do feel like the plan, at least feels like it sits at the same level. Like when I'm critical of Thrawn in Rebels, and he just feels like the bad guy of the week rather than a chess player, and they're playing checkers. It does feel like it's not as good of chess as the game he used to play. His rating's gone down a little bit, but it's still a little bit of a grandmaster chess plan, I think, for him. So
he's gone from chess to Pentos.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I also, one of the things about it is like when you first hear this stuff, and we've known all of this stuff for a while now, but like I said, it was nice to hear it laid out in a very coherent manner. Not by us, but by the author of the piece, by Emily, who wrote the piece. That was her name. Was her name Emily? Who wrote that? Yeah. I wish I knew how to say her last name, but I hate it when I can't say somebody's last name. Emily Shakawani.
It's not Star Wars. You don't have to say
Shakuni. I want to know though. I want to know. It's a mystery. It's another Star Wars.
You know,
mystery.
I feel, and I felt this, that all the sites that have money, like StarWars.com, they got Disney bucks. Anytime you have someone's name, you should be able to click it and hear it pronounced. You know?
Yeah, right. I do love that. It like on. I was always somebody who would open up a dictionary and look up the word if I didn't know it, and I love that now you can just like click the word and it tells you right there what it means. But I need those pronunciations. So, anyways, yeah, I think it's a pretty good plan. I think right now there's like stuff where you can go, or heave and haw about it, but it is going to get, it is going to get though nailed into your common sense Star Wars brain over in the future to such a degree that it will all just seem like, yeah, that's what it was. You know what I mean? And then stuff will get built on it.
I don't know. I don't agree with that. I think I might quickly forget this.
Really?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because when I watch the film, it's not in the film.
Yeah.
You know, like
but
I'm not saying like
it informs your understanding of it though, doesn't it? Like when you watch it now, no?
I don't feel that's what I'm seeing. I feel like all I can see is a bunch of weird editing decisions that don't want to make an actual decision.
Oh,
you know, and I feel like now I feel like this comes out now because JJ is firmly planted at WB and they don't have to worry about tripping over toes, you know?
Yeah.
So I hear it. It's that thing, man, where it's just like I can't. This is the one thing this and Owen and Anakin and Ben's relationship just not existing in the prequels are the things I can't get past. Like, I'm not against Palpatine returning, not against Rey even being the daughter of Palpatine if that's what you wanted to do. I'm against just like the way they just sort of like threw it in at the last second to give them some kind of villain for 9 because JJ just didn't have the time or didn't look. Honestly, man, I know you're not a fan of the Duel of Fate. I don't think you're a fan of the Duel of Fate script. I don't know.
No. I like I said, I would have preferred the first draft was better than the second draft, and I can't.
Okay. I haven't read the drafts. Okay.
Yeah,
but whatever Robert Meyer Burnett read about. All right,
that was the first draft.
The first draft. That's the movie I would have preferred to have seen. You know,
I think that movie. I feel like it was in totality actually worse, but Finn was handled better. And my problem with it is that Rey needed to get to the tower to transmit the signal. That happened to Rogue One. It was like, no, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's something that in a sequence you could fix or whatever. Here's the thing. Here's something that's never happened in a Star Wars movie where the villain just shows up and magically goes away and there's no reason for it. You know what I mean? Like it's just weird for Palpatine, the Emperor. Like I love the idea of bringing Poltergeist into Star Wars. I'm not even against that idea.
Yeah,
of bringing the supernatural. Should have just been there from the beginning.
Sure,
you know, like that's my thing. And the movie really needs more resolution with Finn and whatever the hell the Republic is up to and Ben Solo and all that stuff that those things need. And then you get the weird not Lando's daughter thing thrown in, right? And then there's this. And this is like, there's no way, like, if this were MTV Music Awards, right? It would be Palpatine sits in a chair and then just explains it like, what's his face did? Will Ferrell does the Kentucky Fried Chicken version of The Matrix Reloaded. Remember when he sits there and he does that end in The Matrix Reloaded? They just spill out all the stuff.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
like that's a problem. Like the Matrix Reloaded is one of those things again where at the end the architect needs to like spend 5 minutes explaining everything. Like, I don't know, man. You can do it. There's no one way to tell a story.
For sure.
I just feel like, is this what I'm seeing? I guess. You know what I mean? Like, it's as good as anybody else would have conjured up, and I'm glad that someone felt the need. Remember we were talking about how they should probably have a permanent PR thing, you know, to like walk through. The problem is if they read this on a Star Wars show, the more when you read it, the minute you say it out loud, it becomes more ridiculous, right?
Mhm.
Like when you say it out loud, because it requires you having read Lost Stars, which didn't, you know, and
Sure. Yeah.
and to know maybe the game.
I mean, there are parts of it though that I will say I like. Operation Cinder. I mean, that seems pretty fucking real after the last year that we've had in our country. I mean,
I'm not against all those things. They're just not in the film. There's no Operation Cinder. What are the Snokes? What is the point of the Snokes?
But here's where
Snokes.
but back to my original point, right? Is that when Mandalorian, for it's not, I don't think it's going to, but let's just pretend Operation Cinder will occur in the Mandalorian. All of this, if this stuff isn't forgotten about, that's the big question. If this stuff ends up permeating through that post Return of the Jedi era, like if the Mandalorian, for instance, has to go through it, if we see Baby Yoda needing to get saved because one of the planets is being eradicated that he's on by the Mando or something like that, then all of a sudden these historical, I say in air quotes, moments start to become, I think, part of the second nature, like vernacular of our Star Wars common sense. It's sort of like a weird hegemony. You know what I mean? It starts to really.
I'll give you. I think you're right. If I can come around on the prequels, anything can be fixed, I suppose. I think another good example of this, right?
Wait, hold on. Let's just take a moment for that. All right, go on.
Yeah, I know. He's like, I got you. I knew I'd get you. So, a good example of this would be in the 90s. Batman got his back broke because Superman died, right? And people at the time thought it was a ridiculous storyline. They just thought it was there's a guy named Bane in a lucha whatever mask. A wrestler breaks Batman's back, and then now Batman kills, and it's just weird. Now people love it.
I still hate it,
even after the really over the top performance. Yeah. I like Tom Hardy's performance as Bane in the beginning of that film, but when he starts talking with his eyes, when he pulls that paper out and he starts, I'm like, what is this? We fucking with us? Like, I had to look around the theater, like, for real? Like, but I mean, you can give with enough talent and time, you can water that garden till you pull fruit out of it. You know, it's true. It's there.
Yeah. Know? And that's what I'm curious about like the next 10 years of Star Wars stories and what Lucasfilm is going to do with this stuff. Because on one hand, like there's moments where I'm like, I am sick of this stuff. Like I'm sick about thinking about Palpatine's plan and its and they have to fucking work on it though. You know what I mean? Like and like I said, not knocking this story. I actually like this. I like that.
Well, it's because we're not getting paid. Supposedly. I like to say it that way.
Disney dollars, make it rain. Disney dollars.
Mac and cheese me.
Yeah. You know? Oh, Dole Whip all over my titties. sorry.
My Masamitas.
But no, it's like I'm curious if on their end they're like, dude, we're so over this that like they don't deal with it, and then it becomes kind of bad in a way, so because it's like the foundations of what's next could be laid by this stuff.
It's entirely plausible. A year or two from now, we're doing this freaking cast, and I go, man, I actually like this. And then you remember when you didn't? I'm like, yes. And then when presented with more information and talent and time and watering, they came around and made it worth knowing. You know,
remember when they made the Lost Stars trilogy, and it was the best, most well-performing Star Wars trilogy ever, and you were wrong again?
I have said I believe the best Star Wars is in front of us, and I have consistently said this.
I always say that too. I always think
But
that is
yeah,
completely possible.
if I go downstairs after the podcast and read this to my wife to explain to her what she's, because she's just a rando normie fan, you know what I mean? Just a kid who grew up with it with VHS tape and loves Star Wars. If I read this to her, she'd look at me, and she's a Tolkien. Like, she loves the Silmarillion. If I read this to her, she's gonna be like, I don't know about that.
If she's,
it's so Tolkien though, right? The essence of something, and this is floating around. It's very, 70s ish. Well, the Tolkien, Silmarillion's like, it was the 40s or 50s, but that dude was smoking
And I really want to go see the Green Knight. Like, I keep seeing the ads for it.
It's rooted in the poem that one of the poems that Tolkien Tolkien lifted a lot of poem stuff, right, for the names and scenarios. So it's rooted in that.
Yeah. I mean, that movie looks cool though. I want to see it. I always think because that's what they say in the trailer. Can you? So Mark Hamilton says, can you put Operation Cinder in the Jakku climax? Cinder, a Star Wars story.
Can we never use a Star Wars story ever again? Can we? The one idea Kathleen Kennedy and I don't agree with. Like,
I think he's alluding to your fan fiction, Jakku climax. I think he read it.
It's a short but intense battle.
I think what's that site? Archive of Our Own or something like that. I think he
Internet Archive.
No, the one where all of the fan fiction goes. I think it's called something like that. But anyways, wouldn't it be cool if they said Operation Cinder was a new Star Wars movie, and then when you went to watch the trailer, it was just the Wicket from the Ewok Adventures saying Sindel over and over. Sindel!
Order Akieta. I'll never forget when my buddy did it, man.
Rick asked, are you still doing a Saturday UFO show? Yeah, this Saturday we will do the UFO show. Last Saturday, I was sick. It was not a fun time. So decided to not do a bad one and just slept. Hey, Kane, how's it going? Hi, guys. The Emperor's overconfidence was his weakness. I have trouble accepting the fact that he would have a contingency plan. Makes no sense to me. I mean, I see what you're saying, but I'm going to say his overconfidence is his weakness in the moment of that plan. It doesn't mean his overconfidence is his weakness all the time, every time, in every single way. Because if that was the case, he would be very easy to beat the whole time. Vader would have tricked him immediately, somehow, if that was the case.
But Masamida made me sign up for New Order insurance.
But
the first order.
Yeah, but where you are right is that it once again is that his overconfidence about selfishness and blood right and love are completely wrong, and he misunderstands what Kylo is going to do and what Rey will do for Ben, or Ben and Rey will do for each other, and their love for the people that he killed and she carried on for. So
I think it's a missed opportunity, Jason, to have Count Dooku come back as a head in a jar with just the cape. They took my head, but I am back.
Yeah.
Order Dooku.
His head is on Grievous's body now. He just has a Grievous body. But yeah,
it rockets off to flies around and lands on another.
I am curious to see if we are what the plans in the Mandalorian, if they are going to connect to Palpatine with this cloning stuff. Because it could be something like in the end, I hope that if they do want Grogu's blood to give Palpatine blood infusions, for instance, or something like that, to, how like those rich people take young people blood to feel good. It could be something, just like that. At the same time, what if it's something stupid? Like,
I told you, we're going to
make Jedi, we're going to make force using super stormtroopers, and they're even blacker than the other ones.
Oh, it's very Dark Forces, LucasArts video game stuff. And look, I'm fine with that being in a video game, like the Star Killer games being a game. And I think the games should not be canon because games require game loops. They require, this is why when you play World War II simulators, they don't have civilians running around. You're not spending your whole time, cleaning out the trenches and covering up your poop because battles last a fraction compared to the downtime.
Yeah.
I just believe that sort of stuff works great for a video game. But when you start to put, and even I felt that the Dark Trooper stuff in Mando 2 was like, it's pushing the very edge of how much of that I'm willing to tolerate.
Yeah,
right?
I don't like it. And as I was about to feel like about it, my 7-year-old son is like, "Oh my God, those are cool. I need that. Do they make that toy yet?" And I'm just like, okay, would 7-year-old Jason dig this?
Yes.
Probably.
If 7-year-old Jason liked the Rancor, that stupid
I
puppet.
still love him. Still love him.
Stupid puppet.
Still love that guy. But yeah. I mean, with so it's like, you got I got to kind of roll with that stuff. But that did push it, and it did. I did feel like it's like a weird balance of that sort of idea for me too. Like Death Troopers are really rad. They made them sort of cyborgy stormtroopers that are black with these green lights. And by the way, they developed so many things for those green lights to do and like scenes that they can do with it in Rogue One, and they didn't do any of it. So I'm hoping that stuff shows up in Cassian. That's my hope. But anyways, when you go and you just keep having to top the last thing of a certain concept, you just eventually hit the wall. And I hope that was the wall, because it's not a bad wall. But if it goes further down the line, I'm just not going to be about it, And once again, it comes down to that imagined audience, I think. Like, and maybe I'm wrong, but they're like, oh, these people always ask me at conventions where that is. I'm going to make them happy. Yeah, but that's not the real world. That's not your real consumer in the big picture. Even when it's me, it's not your, I mean, I get it.
We need a new term though, Jason. I believe like what Lucas conjured up with Star Wars is like the it's a version of the MacGuffin, but where you're chasing a giant planet destroying weapon like thing. You know what I mean? Something that you're constantly chasing the more ultimate weapon, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
a McWeapon, whatever we want to call it. What's the new Mac weapon? It's and you can't, like, that's why even Lucas was like, I guess 2 Death Stars. I mean, that was the original script for Jedi, was 2 Death Stars instead of
and like one of the things, like, to go back to Palpatine's plan too, that like I kind of like am in a way bummed that they didn't use, but also liked in the Duel of the Fates like realm of stuff of that script was, George Lucas creates Moraband, which is his mind, the Sith planet before Exegol, whatever becomes it, I guess. And
wasn't Biss originally his planet, like in the EU at the time?
Oh, there
like
was a planet that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
But anyways, like he has there's in the Yoda arc, because there's a Yoda arc of the Clone Wars I highly recommend that you watch onto itself as well.
Here's the thing. I know you recommended not watching all the stupid episodes, but I just consider all of it, right? In my mind, all of it's going to be dumb. So I'd rather just be informed on every little thing than not, So I'm just going to sit through the stupid shit and deal with it.
Yeah. No, I mean, ultimately that is best. But there is a Yoda arc of the Clone Wars that kind of ends out Yoda's Clone Wars story in the animated show. And it's not stupid at all. It's really good. It's like Yoda having to deal with his hubris, and Palpatine's plan is sort of coming through cosmically to him, but he can't get there. He's fighting Sidious and stuff in this.
See,
visions.
This is where I think Very Big Trouble in Little China. By the way, I like it. This is where I think the sequel trilogy really could have. I mean, when you add the idea of the supernatural and ghosts, and you have Force ghosts, and then the concept art for Episode 7, there was like these Sith ghosts that Luke was talking to on the planet, which I love that concept, that there's also evil Wraith ghosts, that do linger that you have to deal with. Like, I like bringing that in, especially when, you know, that fan edit where they put all the ghosts together. Like, that was a scene from Jedi I never thought would work, where the ghosts help Luke. But the way that was edited, I'm like, yeah, it actually can work, you know? And so,
Yeah.
like, tying the supernatural in a Raiders of the Lost Ark way into the final 3 films, I'm all for. You know, I just wish it was. You know.
Yeah, he goes. Yoda goes to a Sith pyramid basically, and when he gets in there, Darth Bane is inside, and it's a giant ghost of Darth Bane, and Yoda like basically goes, "No, you're dead. You're not real," and sort of defeats it that way just by claiming it's not real, and it's you know, and in essence. But that whole arc is really good. But anyways, they end up going and showing that you can go to a literal pyramid, and the spirit of Darth Bane is like able to communicate there. And like that was such an obvious but tangible jumping off place for where all of this could have started in the sequel trilogy. And it's so weird that they were just
See,
like, nope,
they
nope,
keep
because
chasing the McWeapon when what they have right in front of their face is the fantastical Jedi stuff. You know what I mean? The space wizard stuff. Like that stuff is the stuff we want to see more of, in a serious manner, like a Kurosawa in space manner, juxtaposed next to the Han Solo Western thing, you know, like that Poe Dameron could have been the Western, you know, World War II, was it Dam Breakers, whatever.
Dam Busters,
you know, that Dam Busters meets, you know, Good, Bad, and the Ugly, whatever.
right?
But the Excalibur, right? The Green Knight, you know, the occult part of Raiders of the Lost Ark mixed with the Sword in the Lake with samurai is the thing that it needs to be prominent. And when I used to think you didn't need it at all. But Rogue One proves that even at the very end, it provides the difference between this and any other sci-fi thing, right?
Yeah.
The difference between this and Blade Runner is you can tap into the Force if you know, go down that path, and you can circumvent the computer,
Right.
you know, like, so I agree with you, man. Like I'm looking forward to those episodes. I wish, I don't know, man. Do you think they'll learn from this? Like, do you think they'll, when they plan the next trilogy that they're going to do, right? And there's going to be another trilogy. Listen, whatever, it's a 6 films, 4 films, whatever. I'm using that trilogy, just a series of films that have a connected storyline.
Yeah.
When they do that, do you think they'll really learn from this experience? Like,
well, I think that I don't think that they didn't know what to do necessarily, as much as they were in a mad scramble to get J.J. Abrams to get the movie into production as soon as possible. Like I think they were really pushed into get going now. Go. We want to recoup the $4 billion right away. And so I think that put them into a difficult place. And I think that is, and then they never really, I think going back to Abrams was the big mistake. Because he did a good job.
Ryan, man.
Well, they should have just went with Ryan. They went back to Abrams because they knew that that was the pop choice to like do. And he also didn't have time. So it's like he was up against unfair time constraints, and then kind of doing, it's like
he's already not the best decision maker. But I don't mean like he makes poor decisions. I mean, he doesn't make them quickly.
Yeah.
He doesn't make and you, as you know, in production, you have to make decisions fast. And look at Star Trek 2. He just couldn't decide Khan or Gary Mitchell. Like, couldn't decide it. I don't know. We knew one. And so with time being like right in your face, it's not a good combination.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that's why I'm more confident about the future. That's why I'm more confident about like Ryan Johnson's trilogy idea of films. When that
Sorry.
happens, it's only a good thing that it didn't happen yesterday when you get down to it. Because if it does happen, it's it's had a lot of time to digest. The good ideas clearly are going to stand. The weak ones are going to fall away, and it's going to be way more planned out than this was.
Can
So
I
it's
do Monday
like,
night quarterbacking? Can I do a
sure.
little bit of fantasy football? Right, right. I
Mm-hmm.
don't play it, but I believe this is how it works
Mm-hmm.
because I don't gamble. I suck. Um, I think they just got the two. They should just flip the two around. I think JJ should have done the solo movie, come in and fix that, and Ron Howard should have been making episode 9.
That would have been way better for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Um, I kind of think that now that that's out of the way, and there's like, I do, like I always say, I think 10, 11, 12 is going to happen. As a Star Wars trilogy,
I
Skywalker
hope
saga,
it. I
I
hope
think
if
it
it
will.
happens, it doesn't happen as the same kind of trilogy format we're used to. I'd rather they commit to 4 films or 6 films or even 2 films, like something beyond the 3-act structure, because we're getting the limits of it right now, you know.
Well, that's what I liked about when the Game of Thrones guys were going to do their Star Wars, is that it wasn't promised to be a trilogy. It was promised to be 1 to 2 films in a series that would continue if people liked it, if it
Can
was
I say something about
successful.
those guys? I know
Mhm.
they're controversial. Um and I have my thoughts about that last season.
Who
Just in
isn't?
terms of,
But yeah.
but the scene with the knight and his brother, right? The
Mhm.
big knight dude, the big Vader looking guy versus
Yeah, the mountain,
the mountain versus the other dude. Whatever. I don't
the
remember their
hill,
fucking names. Yeah,
the
the hill.
lumpy.
When they're fighting on that spire and it's falling apart, that's how I imagine the Obi-Wan Vader fight at the mountain, the volcano, to be in the 80s when it was spoken that they fought at a volcano. I wasn't imagining a lava planet filled with adventure. I was imagining like a Rashomon, Throne of Blood, Kurosawa like volcano,
Yeah.
like the fire falling around them. You know, like
Hmm.
when I saw that, I'm like, oh, these guys could really do Star Wars. Like, because that to me is very like, if they had filmed that Vader Anakin fight, I mean, the Vader Obi-Wan fight in the 80s, like if it were a flashback sequence in Jedi, I believe it would have looked something more like that. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. And I still think that they had the best reason for leaving Star Wars of all time. Hundreds of millions of dollars.
would we do any different?
No, I'd be like, oh, I had a dream. I could do a hell of a lot of other dreams with $100 million. So, and let's.
Would you be like Notch or those other dudes who fucking they sell something and then they just build a mansion filled with candy jars? What's with the mansions with candy jars? Like the Funko guy has it too. I was digging through for photos for, you know, what we do here, and I found
Yeah.
that the CEO of Funko also has a mansion with giant jars of candy. I'm like, what is this fascination with
How about you
millionaires?
feed the fucking poor instead of having mansions full of candy? You fucking
I
adult
always
Willy
wanted to live in a
Wonka.
sweet factory.
God,
You know,
I always wanted to take a shit at Willy Wonka's house. Like, what? What is
it's
that?
the strangest thing, man. Like,
Yeah.
meanwhile, Dolly Parton's out there doing the real. You know what I mean? Like, be more
Dolly
like Dolly.
Parton is a national treasure. I love that she's like part of the reason we got the vaccine. I just think that's so rad. Like when you get down to it, rad, really good songwriter, and then this wild personality, and then it's like, oh yeah, and I also kind of helped save humanity one time. So that
Yeah,
is,
no joke. She back in the 80s, like 9 to 5 was my favorite movie because
yeah.
it had animated sequences. Dabney Coleman's hilarious.
Mhm.
He's who I thought J. Jonah Jameson would have been in the
Mhm.
80s if like John Cusack had been Peter Parker, Dabney Coleman would have been J. Jonah Jameson. And I love 9 to 5, and my mom at the time was like, "You just like it because she's got whatever." I'm like, no, there's something funny about Dolly Parton, like legitimately, truly entertaining and smart. And she'd go on Johnny Carson and she'd go on these shows, and she was as smart as like Joan Rivers. You know what I mean? Like Joan Rivers would be great because you couldn't fucking get nothing around Joan Rivers.
Right.
I always like Dolly Parton and Joan Rivers got to team up. Like that's the movie I wanted to see as a kid, you know?
Yeah. In the 80s, what she was known for, literally anybody can buy. Biff bought them for Marty McFly's mom in Back to the Future Part 2's alternate reality.
Right.
Yeah, it takes more than just buying those or having
she
those.
Just had this personality, and to know she's a kind soul too, just literally, you know, it's like fuck, at least the universe fucking the Strand cast made one of them.
You know, about because I have to connect everything to Nirvana. About 10 years ago, she was doing an interview, and Lead Belly comes up, and she's talking about like the best iteration of Where Did You Sleep Last Night? And she actually lays out how Kurt Cobain did this hybrid version, pulling in all of the best parts of all of them. And I was like, man, I love you, Dolly Parton. And then she saved us, kind of. At least saved us until we didn't save ourselves.
Yeah, so anyways, like, there's only so much I can do.
Yeah, it's like at this point, it's up to humanity. Richie says KK contract is up very soon. Have you heard anything on that front? I, like you, I'm sure, expect her to renew her contract. The internet will explode no matter if she stays or goes. You know, I don't know what to expect on that front. At some point, I think she's going to get tired of this shit. Not like the internet backlash stuff. I'm sure she doesn't even care really, but because you know, this stuff makes money. It's successful. But at some point, I think she's going to want to go do something else or go back to making other original films, I would think. At the same time, when you look at how many productions are coming right now that she's clearly going to be an executive producer on,
I can't see her leaving before Rogue Squadron.
Yeah.
I just can't. I mean, that's a deal that's a Kathleen Kennedy style deal from the top to bottom, you know, and I can't see them just announcing, you know, as that movie goes into production and someone else is taking over. Like I can't.
And I do kind of like, this is all conjecture on my part. I have no idea what Disney would force or even allow, but I would almost imagine that it will be sort of handled how it was when the new guy took over for Bob Iger. I think that it should probably continue to produce the films that in the shows that she has left to finish that work up while it doesn't sound like it, but by doing like a handoff kind of thing, you know, where they don't just throw the new person in and go, we're just changing direction. It's all my new ideas. But that's like,
what, you know, when new studio heads come in, they immediately eliminate all the projects they didn't conjure up because they don't want to take the fall if they don't work. Like,
well, they also, who wants to finish somebody else's project? Like that's like the other side of it. But I think this is how you make it happen, is by keeping her on as a producer. So I don't think it's going to be like she just boots to the moon and is just gone one day. I kind of don't think it's going to happen that way. But
who big producer from the 80s or 90s that is still working today? Because I know everyone thinks, you know, oh, they'll eventually hand it to a Filoni type. They won't. It'll be someone who's already in the biz, who has clout. Like who is out there. It won't be Feige. Like I mean, if he ever, you know, ends his MCU stuff, he'll just retire. Like I don't see him.
Yeah.
Now I'll run Lucasfilm. It's not going to happen. I mean, it'd be more like. I guess it'd be more. I was gonna say that's why I thought they initially got a hold of JJ because of the way he handles Battle Robot. Maybe one day he would be in charge, kind of thing. But that's not happening. So
yeah, my question would be with in terms of like replacing her is, do they go with a producer? Do they just straight up go with an executive? Do they go with a creative? You know,
are they
going to
Pixar Pete Doctor type or Ed Catmull?
Like because there's, you know, a lot of different ways of going about it, but I have no idea who that would even be. I mean, and you know, one thing though to just throw it out there is it could be somebody who's under her now, like Michelle Rejuan. That might be, they may just push her up, and then if that happened, it's hilarious because then we have a bunch of YouTube guys that are going to be in the same position to do the same thing.
This isn't right. This isn't right. Disney's second Civil War. Disney's second. This Sega is broke. I don't care about the Sega anymore.
Yeah, I really do have to question. I'm like, because I think that may be a best guess. I have no idea if that would happen, but that would be my best guess.
They're gonna make James Cameron involved. Everyone's got blue tails, and then they're gonna ride around on the Dragons of Pern. This is bullshit, Rick.
Yeah. So Thrawn Talk says, "Isn't force projection sending your consciousness across space?" Sure.
Hey, you got me there.
I mean, that
is well played, chess man.
Yeah.
I'll have to use my rooks to get out of that one.
Kane says, "For a long time, I was convinced that Rey was a female clone of Luke's hand. Would explain her power and connection to the lightsaber." Yeah, it would have.
I like. You're like, yeah.
It would have. I mean, yeah. I mean, that was the stuff is like they were doing like all these like stories, in those books and other print material, like about there being like test facilities on Jakku and all this stuff that made it seem like, yeah, there might be something to this stuff. Nope. You guys mentioned Matt Smith, and it reminded me to ask: was Matt Smith supposed to be a younger Palpatine, or at one point in production, or was he actually cast in Episode 9 at all? So, like I said, it's still a weird mystery of strange bullshit. I had crew members who literally told me Matt Smith is on the film, and there was actually stuff for Matt Smith on the film. A theory is that Matt Smith was the code name for Ian McDiarmid. Oh no, strange bro. That it was a code name for Ian to get there and not to give it all the way right away that he was coming back. So there is that. Then there was a fake rumor from somebody in, we'll just say licensing, who went to spread a rumor around and told everybody the same rumor. And the idea was that this rumor would get back to him or to them. It would get exposed, and it'd be like, oh, so Rob is the one who told Jason, right? But this person used the same rumor.
I'm a leaker, like Liam Neeson's.
Yeah, and then that whole thing was that is what made it seem like the young Palpatine was a thing when it wasn't. But it was all them in this instance, anyways. So
my homies are just hiding. The leakers are hiding behind me for protection.
Right. Speaking to comments says there is another Strand cast.
Look, if they had put this out before you had done this whole thing, I would have been. Let's call it the Making Star Wars Strand cast.
Strand cast.
Yeah.
But somebody will make it their podcast name and still fuck it up. They'll be like, "Oh, it's Strandcast Radio." I'll never understand why people fucking add radio. It only works
if you have 7 different shows on your station.
It only makes sense if you're broadcasting on a fucking radio in the 80s. Like I don't know. It's just weird to me.
That too.
I'm not a big fan of the word radio with podcast. It's just
internet radio. Well, Art Bell had that when he first had the Dreamwave set up. The Dreamweaver, whatever that was called.
It's like MakingStarWars.typewriter. I mean, that's just what it feels like to me. Anyways,
it's my blog. It's a typewriter.
Typewriter. Geek Furious says, "Please don't remake anything. Just move forward." Oh wait, that is exactly what they're doing. Yeah. But I will take it a step further and say, don't remake something while pretending that you're moving forward either. Or don't kind of remake something while moving forward. Actually move forward with completely new stories and new formats for those stories. That's why I don't like the trilogy format. I don't think it pertains to most any of this, unless you're cool with only getting 3 of something ever. It's a stupid format for the most part. Oh, it mirrors the 3-act play. How many of you fuckers are watching a play? None of you. Nobody's watching plays. And
not to mention most great plays, like anything Glengarry Glen Ross with the writer from David Mamet, those are like 5-act structures. Like, it's not like there's a lot of different ways to slice that orange, buddy. 3 ain't the only number.
No. And I do want things to feel like Star Wars, but Star Wars hasn't been a trilogy for me since 1999, you know, so I don't really know why they insist on sticking to it. That's always been weird to me.
You ever read a 3-chapter book?
Bridging the Geekdom podcast as well. How did I not know about this channel? I don't know, but welcome, Bridging the Geekdom podcast.
Algorithms.
But I have one suggestion: maybe Bridging the Geekdom's podcast radio. Okay, no, don't do it. For
Lord
a second there.
Oh no! Lord Santeca says, "How did I not know about this?"
he's like, put some money in the tidings for the Church of the Force, friends. Thrawn Talk Podcast Radio says into Miracle Max's wife.
What?
I don't know, but it sounds like a good time.
Slice of life. That's the type of anime I was talking about. Slice of life.
Slice of life, Rob. Slice of life. God, yeah. And Paul McCartney songs for some reason. Geek Fury says, I like everything in The Rise of Skywalker. I just don't like what's not in The Rise of Skywalker. That's a very healthy way of putting it, I think. Swinging Through Comics says, that's a cute way to put it, a Geek Furious. I didn't dig it on my first watch. I don't know how many times I've seen it, but it sure isn't enough to call to mind what I loved from it. Yeah, and that's how I feel about the movie too, is that when I sit down and watch the whole thing, I feel incomplete. I don't feel satiated. When I microdose the movie, there is no part of the movie that I don't like. Very weird.
It's that scene in Rounders at the end where Malkovich is like, I feel so unsatisfied. Just, fine,
Mr. Furious says, I wrote an 8,000 word blog on everything I loved about The Rise of Skywalker. I can recall tons. It's easy. Yeah, it's like, I guess, I think for me, it might literally just come down to organization, which may be editing. It may be, what time was spent on, and also the risks that weren't taken, like I think
Lando's daughter.
Well, like I think on one hand, like Jana is like a good, it's a good example of should there be a black female hero in Star Wars? Yeah, there should. But I feel like, honestly, like she was kind of a checkbox. Oh, you can't say we didn't put a black female hero. And then we did Jana, you guys. Oh, you didn't remember
Such
Jana?
A Lando move.
You didn't remember Jana? Well, I remember Jana. And it's like, no, Jana didn't do shit. She didn't get to do anything. And it was just in the end, a weird face for the stormtroopers who join Finn. But they're really, if they were going to go that way, it should have probably have been felt more like Captain America's homies.
Or on Coruscant, per the original script, where they would be, not the random Rebel Moon,
Yeah.
Also, it is the running joke in the Clerks cartoon, which I love, where there's just this guy standing there that enters the frame, and it's a black man, and he goes, "Hey, Lando. Hey, what's up, Clerks? How you doing?" And then leaves. Like, it's just, like, it just happens one scene in every episode.
Yeah. So if they end up actually doing stuff with Jana, they end up making it into something bigger, making her character into something, then I guess in the end it becomes worth it. The film doesn't deliver on it. And it makes me angry that Rose was sidelined so hard in that movie for nothing.
Yeah. Rose and Finn, really, you know what I mean? Like Finn's like, I got something to tell you, and then, and I totally understand and agree that Lando would be at Burning Man, but not as a spy. He'd just be at Burning Man, like capitalizing. You know, like, here's my party I throw on the planet.
I also feel like in a lot of ways, if they were going to take Finn's story, and I'm trying not to just like second guess everything and like not like the movie because of my second guessing, but if you were going to take Finn into, but I have the Force too thing, as a novice noob, he still should have shown up in the end battle against Palpatine and had some play into it.
Yeah.
Instead of just going, I just sensed there's a tower right there. Like that we didn't, it was just, it could have went so many other ways. And, but that's
I've
literally because
seen
I came
worse.
late.
I've seen worse third movies in a trilogy. Matrix. I've seen worse.
Yeah.
But given the amount of talent and money and everything else and lore that they already have, they could do better.
Yeah. Yeah. And my only hope is that it, for the failings of the Rise of Skywalker, end up leading to more stories that in the end are really great, you know? Oh yeah, I forgot. It's such a huge bummer that Jonathan Rinsler, he passed. He's not with us anymore, which is a huge shame. Berkeley side has his obituary, which I won't read the whole thing because it's you know, it's sad. But remembering Jonathan Rinsler, best-selling author of Star Wars books, Rinsler 58 attended Berkeley High School, and he had a career as a best-selling author of cinematic history books about Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and other blockbuster films. And yeah, so he passed on July 28th at 58 from pancreatic cancer, which is a huge shame because that is really young. And it's sad because he has kids and grandkids and parents even. So that is too young. But yeah, he is the best. I hope someday we get something that is the quality of his work. But I honestly don't think the quality of his work will be surpassed. And I don't think that in the current corporate climate that Star Wars is in, or when we'll probably always be in, it will ever get that clear of an official hit on it, you know? So yeah, he was the best, and we will always use his work, and his work is always going to be important. And that's what I mean. As sad as it is that he's gone, he left us some really great work. So huge bummer. But Lord Key says Snoke was going to hand Rey over. He was going to let Kylo kill her right in front of him. Wait, he was going to let Kylo kill her right in front of him. This retcon is a stretch, to be sure. I mean, you can take that a few different ways, though. I mean, because when you get down into the body thing, like he does need her body to live on, right? That sounds bad when you put it that way, but he needs her body.
They're just gonna take that clip out of context, man.
Yeah,
you know?
but if he died, or if he had killed her, that might have been, you know, that might have been some true Sith shit right there. So you know what I mean, though. That might have been
who's
one
Palpy? She said, and he's mine.
Because
the other way.
Yeah, no, because I believe that if Kylo had wanted to, Ben or Kylo, I think he could have or would have become a Sith. I think he would have, if he was able just to continue on with his evil shit, he would have become one. One way or another, it would have happened. So that's kind of where I fall on it. But I do think that you do bring up an excellent point, Lord Key, because it is true. If you were going to let her die there, that would have really ruined the plan. But we also can't say if he would have held up his hand and said enough and stopped her from, you know what I mean, though, from like right before she dies.
We can't say that. We can't. We just can't. It's empirical.
Yeah. So that's why it doesn't really bother me too much. But yeah. So okay, here we go. Joel Williams says the Green Knight director references Willow action figures and Battle for Endor as inspirations.
Like them already.
Michael Freeman says, "My gosh, the sequels were so terrible." I disagree with you there.
I disagree with that. Like, again, there's like 7 Twilight films that you can go like, did that need 7 movies? You know, like one of these needed 7 and one of these 2 tops. Like you figure
I don't get why I can't get the Vampire Chronicles made correctly. And that shit has 7 movies, but that's the world we live in. Michael also says Dark Horse is canon, Marvel is not. We all have our head canon, Michael.
Frank Miller's like, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, my swinging through comics is Michael's like, what about the classic Marvel Star Wars run? I want to dig into that stuff so bad. I need to take the time for it. Yeah,
Jackson.
that is my favorite. I mean, honestly though, that's my favorite. My favorite Star Wars comics are those ones. You know, they
I
have
hear you. My problem
yeah.
when I was a kid was they didn't even attempt to draw Darth Vader correctly.
No,
Like,
everything was.
What?
I mean, dude, at that point, my hammerhead and my snaggletooth made me just like, who gives a shit at this point? Look at Walrus Man; he's wearing an orange leotard. You
And they
know,
don't have to look like the actors, but the helmets you got to get right. You
Yeah.
know, like not photographically right, but like like the Clone Wars cartoon that Gendy and them did.
Mhm.
That's accurate to the designs. That looks like Grievous. That looks like a clone trooper. You know, like you look at that Marvel comic and just sometimes you're like, what fucking movie were they watching? Like it looks like when you see those weird Star Wars posters made in the Ukraine, but they had never seen the movie.
Yeah,
they just got.
I love that.
Yeah, I love them. But you're like, yeah, because they never seen it. What were these guys' excuses? You know?
Yeah, no, I don't know. In a weird way, it's just like I just chalk it up to like an artistic style. And I know what you mean though. It did, as a kid, it did bother me. I was like, why don't they have the dimensions more right? And eventually by Empire, they started to get there. Like by the Empire Strikes Back run of those comics though, it does get there. Like I remember it getting way more accurate. So somebody at Lucasfilm was probably like, hey guys, come on, time to start.
Yeah, my favorite Star Wars comic is the first manga adaptation by Hideo Tamaki. But my second is Star Wars Underworld, drawn by Carlos Maglia, who has a very animated style, draws people with thin legs, big feet. You know, like Han Solo's very thin face. Chewbacca, you can see his gums. It's all stylized. I'm fine with that. But you can tell who they are.
Yeah.
There are times, man, where I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking at. It was really weird because the Indiana Jones comic came out around Jedi. I guess, yeah, by then they had it worked out because the Jones comic was pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if Jones had the Cousin Eddie hat instead of the fedora, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a hat, you know?
Yeah.
All right. You know.
Eric Denton says Palpatine was Mitch McConnell's mentor. Wrong. Mitch McConnell is Palpatine.
He's a Strandcast.
He's a Strandcast of Palpatine and a fucking chicken. A giant fucking
the Foster's Farms chickens?
Yeah,
those are my favorite.
I actually think what happened was they took some Palpatine DNA, chicken gizzards, urinated on it, mixed it together, stuck it into some sort of platypus, and out came Mitch McConnell. So anyways, Josh says, how is it that even before the prequels, I already knew that Vader and Kenobi fought on a volcano and Vader got injured by lava?
Because Lucas talked about it all the time.
No, he didn't. Well, he didn't come out directly publicly on it, I don't think. But
so
what you
something in Starlog?
No, well, so you would hear it in Starlog, but the first place I think it was mentioned was in a book called the Star Wars Poster Book. And that was, and I honestly think that information permeated from there into Starlog, then into lore, so to speak. And but it was always a plan or a story idea, and Kurtz may have kind of been responsible for some of that getting out after he wasn't, on Return of the Jedi, and that he was like in other places. He might have talked about it a few times too. But
I think when I was reading some of the development on one of the Renzel books, Lucas had hired an assistant, shocking, to do research on just hazardous locations for Jedi, various hazardous locations. And so they would just go around and take photos of or dig up all these. And one of them was this volcanic island he thought would make for a great scene. And I think it sort of starts from there, right? Yeah,
there was an island in I can't remember what it's called, or in Italy, a
Fireball
Island, Fireball whiskey. No, he was I had something to say about it. Anyways, he ends up going, and there's a fanfic at the time, back in like 83-ish, and I think it was also called Revenge of the Sith, and had a volcano fight. And
There was a
that
fanfic in 1983 where they fought in
yeah.
a volcano.
Yeah, and that was one of the ones that I heard that they were going to conventions and literally pulling out of comic book conventions and were like, stop. And it was one of the fan fiction, and there was even like in price guides back in the early 90s, you buy like a Star Wars price guide for toys, and they would be like, oh, here's this fanfic goes for this much and this one goes for this much, but we don't really go about the grade them because Lucasfilm, they're illegal and we don't really want to condone it or something like that. So originally fan fiction was like off the table, but there was one where that happened, and I would love to find it. I would love to, and I remember seeing it online around 97 where it came back. But yeah, one of these days I want to find it and read it.
There's something I remember seeing, and I may be remembering this thing. This is where I go, this could be the fog of childhood, right?
Yeah.
But I remember it, and maybe this rings a bell. Maybe someone goes, Rob, you're wrong, it was this. Mm-hmm. But I remember, when you'd watch HBO or Cinemax, I think it was HBO, whatever had Return of the Jedi, whenever you'd wait for something, they would play different things for HBO. Sometimes they play random shows like Brain Games, which was like little brain teasers that would show up. They didn't play commercials. Well, they played a short film once about a kid. I remember it was like a kid who gets on a subway train in New York. He's on the subway train, he's reading a comic book or something, and it's like he falls asleep, but doesn't. He looks up, and Darth Vader appears in the subway, and he's like scared as shit, and he gets off the fucking subway train or whatever, and then like he wakes up and it isn't Darth Vader or something. Yeah. And I always remember like, what is Darth Vader doing? Now I may be wrong, and that may have just been like a black night because I was pretty young, but that's how I saw it. Like, and I've tried doing Google searches on this, and I've never been able to come up with anything, but I didn't conjure it from the ether, like I didn't have that clever of creative vocabulary.
Yeah.
In 83, 84. Yeah.
Yeah, there was this movie that was supposed to be coming back out. I guess when Empire originally came out, it had a short film attached to it that was like a knight, like a real knight, like a King Arthur kind of story. And I never saw that.
I thought that might have been it, and I remembered it wrong, but I remember seeing images, and I'm like, that's not what I saw.
Yeah, no. I at first when you were saying it, I was like, is this where it's gonna go? And then I was like, nope. But yeah, okay. What else we got? So we got Geek Series says the trilogy is a 3-act play. If each part has 3 acts, even a trilogy is a 9-act play. Yeah, I mean, corporations could do multiplication, but in reality, like
they are people.
Yeah, but in reality, it's just gonna keep going forever. That's why I'm like, it's like right now everybody's like, well, that's it for Finn. We're done. Trilogy's done. That's it. Finish. And it's just like, number one, I don't really think so. But
meanwhile, Ewan McGregor is back as Obi-Wan.
Yeah, right. It's true. And I would like to see. Like Finn get his own story, and even like, maybe put Rose in it and give her something to do to, make it where it wasn't just for nothing. Like, in the end.
Can I tell you the reason I didn't like her character? I like Killer Tran in the beginning of the film. Eventually I was like, all right, I get this, even though I don't think the moral was quite there. Mm-hmm. My problem comes from being in the military, right? So like they clearly say that whatever Leia and them have, that army is a volunteer. It's not a military. It's a volunteer force. And Bloodlines really sets that up.
Yeah.
Because they refuse to form a military. Then why is she stun gunning deserters? Like you can't desert a non-military volunteer force. Like everyone's fleeing a planet. Like it just felt like a reason to get them together. You know what I mean? Like to keep them from leaving the ship more than.
Yeah, ultimately, yeah. But I think that you could chalk up, if you want to the fact that her sister is the badass, and she is just kind of in a way the victim of what caused her sister to rebel, and goes along with her, and she's kind of not. Would have been great if
they ran together,
because
what I mean. They just left the ship. She's in the pod and she just goes with them.
She's not using a stun gun on them. she's using a tool for the maintenance that she does to stun.
It's even
people.
worse. Who knows what this will do? I got a drill.
Yeah, the other way. I mean, under that idea, the other way is she basically pistol whips them to death. that's like, you know what I mean?
And it's not her. It's just one of those things where I go, look, Ryan, whose idea was this? You know what I mean? Like, because there's just other more elegant ways to get to the result. You know?
Yeah.
So, but whatever. I mean, it's such a mood. It's like me going, I don't think Luke's plan was exactly sound, you know, in Jedi. Like,
yeah,
like he sends everyone. They could have killed everybody and tortured them to death, and he puts his Leia in a bikini. You know, I get it. You know, so whatever.
Yeah, George Lucas has needs to. Thrawn Talk Podcast says Carol Kane and was his wife in Princess Bride, Billy Crystal. Come on, man. Corn pops on a bad dude.
Yeah, but she was wearing all that makeup. It wasn't until I saw her in Scrooge as a kid, I was like, whoa, she's pretty. Like, she's pretty and psychotic. This is my mix. You know? I'm really into that. Like where they go really happy and then they murder you. You know, I like it.
Yeah, it's my type too, unfortunately. Swinging through comics says The Last Jedi had guts galore, while The Rise of Skywalker and The Force Awakens felt gutless to me. Johnson wasn't afraid to piss people off. Yeah,
and it had really good iconic moments that weren't just storyboard shots. They came from the story. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Revenge of the Sith has this, which is like a concept art thing you do.
Yeah.
Right? And that's like, all right, didn't really pan out in the movie, but this, just as iconic, but there's a story behind it. You know?
Yeah. There's like there's a total difference in the way that I think they came to their story ideas. I think Abrams was just like, come to me. And like people are drawing pictures and he's like, come to me. And then meanwhile, Ryan Johnson wrote a script and then they made it visual.
With a red cover.
Yeah. I think the use of color in The Last Jedi is better than in any Star Wars film as well. Geek Furious says execution is key. That's the problem with the prequels. That's the problem with The Rise of Skywalker. It's also why I don't like Bad Batch runs away. Yeah, no, I mean it's totally I think appropriate to critique these things and
you
to
still
love them.
Here. It's fine.
Yeah, you can not like stuff, but you can also be critical of stuff and love it at the same time.
When I told Jason Back to the Future 2 was my least favorite of the three, the look on his face, he cut me off the stream.
So anyways, that guy, should I take him out of that Superman mirror thing? That Superman mirror prison for Zod? Here we go. All right. Sorry.
I wish we did have some plugin where you can go cut to and it's just me twirling like with some random video we can have looping.
Let us out. God, when I tried to show Superman to my kids a couple of weeks ago, and we watched most of the beginning of it, and they were kind of wishy-washy. Part of it, I could see them were into it. Part of it, they were like, I don't know about this shit. But that when they get into that mirror, man, that looks like it's a video by the Cars in the 80s. It does not. That visual effect looks like shit. It is amazing. I love it. But it looks like shit. So Thrawn Talk goes on to say, it seems the books, comics, and animation have the fast-paced action that we really want to see, while the films are subdued. That's an interesting take. Yeah, I mean that's an interesting way of seeing it, though. Is that because like I feel like the comics and that are really slow for me, anyways. But I kind of think that on the sequel trilogy, it may have been, I hate to say it because it's dumb, but it may have been better if it was dumber. It may have been better if it had less responsibility. And when I look at the responsibility that it tried to contend with, whose daughter is she? You know what I mean? What is the legacy of X, Y, and Z? In a way, that's where I do think that Lucas might have had some of that stuff a little bit better, in the sense that the new characters didn't necessarily have to contend with that. It was like those issues were solved and laid out.
It should have been the start of 6 new films and not the end of 6 previous films.
Or the start of a new series. They should have
That's
been
what I'm saying, like a new series.
Yeah.
The
I
start
totally
of
agree.
something, not the culmination of something that kind of culminated in of itself, you know?
Yeah. And I get from the marketing where they wanted to like do that, but if they didn't call episode 1 through 9 the Skywalker saga in the end, and just called it the episodes, they wouldn't have run into that organizational issue.
When am I gonna get my Star Tours saga? Sega, right?
Star Wars Sega.
I want my Pee Wee Herman robot that travels along the galaxy, like fly the navigator. Yeah.
I actually really do love that he's a DJ now in Galaxy's Edge. That Rex from the ride is a failed pilot, and now he's a DJ, because that's a pretty good career path. And by the way, I don't like the Star Wars bar there. I think it kind of sucks. Chandler Dyson says, how do we know for sure the Rogue Squadron is after episode 9 and not slightly before, perhaps, or even showing during the Battle of Jakku? Well, we don't know anything for certain, but the press release does infer that it is after or around episode 9. And I got reason to believe that too, that it is based off of, never mind, just based off of shit. I think that's what it is. But who knows, man? Who knows?
I don't see Patty Jenkins working the lore of the previous films into whatever she's doing. And that's just based off.
I don't see why she has to. I don't see why she has to.
I don't see what she has to. That's what I'm saying. I don't see that being the draw, you know?
But if you have like we were talking about, if you have a theme park with X-Wing fighters of a certain era in there, there you go.
Well, I think it'll be that same era.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're going to jump to something else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when we think of Star Wars, we tend to always, pull out and, oh my God, it's 12 trillion star systems show up at the end battle. That's what must happen. They could show the biggest Star Wars battle of all time. That's the best one. And it could just be about 2 kingdoms on a planet in the end, depending on how you shoot it and what you show.
You can see this play out in the comics, wherein the adaptation of episode 4 Star Wars.
New Hope.
It's 4 books. In the 4th book, the artist draws the Battle of the Death Star. It's the most cinematically drawn space battle I've ever seen in anything ever. But you get to the Marvel comics or even the Dark Horse comics, and they just basically render all the ships in 3D and just shove every ship onto one panel. And there's nothing cinematic about it. It's just, to quote McCullum, it's so dense. Yeah, it's so dense. Like it's the opposite of cinematic, So
yeah,
that when I first saw that the trailer for 9, I'm not bagging on 9, but when I saw 9, they put all the ships in it. I'm like, oh no, that doesn't mean it's gonna be the best thing ever.
No, exactly. It's funny because if you want to look at it like musically, the dynamics of it are broken. It's ba-ba-ba-bam, and then you've climaxed, you've hit the peak. It doesn't actually what I mean. It starts on a crescendo. Yeah, it starts on a crescendo, and then it's very much a standard tune, and it doesn't deliver on that front. And as we know, they probably weren't ever going to have enough time to deliver on that front. But I'm hoping the Jenkins runs in there like Leroy Jenkins and just goes for it. That's what I'm hoping. Throntuck says, got a Jones comic on my wall right now. Nice. I wish I had those. I don't have any of the Jones ones anymore. Mark Hamilton says, by the way, Santa's doing a deep dive stream on Thrawn straight after Rob and Jason finish up. Oh, nice. Yeah, you guys should definitely check that out, you guys. I like the way Santa digs into stuff. I feel like he
goes elbows deep.
He goes right in, man. And I feel like his ideas are never my ideas, but they are completely like, I'm like, that's very reasonable. It's very
That's
rational.
how I feel about your ideas.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So you're saying I got Santa level ideas? I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah, who wouldn't take
Oh.
that as a compliment?
Hey, Francisco, how's it going, dude? Good to see you, man. I love that guy, by the way. Geek Fury says Finn will definitely get his own movie on or Disney Plus show. It'd be funny if he gets the Disney Plus show, because when they were first talking about it, he's like, I ain't doing no Disney Plus. But the world changed a lot.
Do they make the code name for that show Huckleberry?
Yeah, Huckleberry 2. Huckleberry Finn, I get it. I caught on. I'm slow because I'm reading, but I got it. Yeah. Thrawn. How about Thrawn Sawyer? No, okay. Anyways.
I like. God.
There we go. Greek Furia says Rose is stunning Finn as a deserter because they've run out of troops, and able-bodied volunteer is now default drafted into the fight.
The rebel, you can't just draft people into they won't fight for you. They'll just sabotage everything and murder you in your sleep. It's just not how it works. So
yeah. No, I mean, I am with you that deserters, Battlestar Galactica style, get thrown out there a lot.
That's the Empire. Now we're dealing with the Empire. They conscripted you into their army and you're forced to fight for them. That's not someone you root for. So I'm sorry, I don't buy that.
Chandler says one of the coolest things about the original Zahn trilogy was the Katana fleet. Does anyone else think that the Katana fleet will be adapted with what they are doing with Thrawn in the Filoniverse? Yeah, I'm not sure.
Filoniverse? Is that what it's called?
That's a thing I hear now. Filoniverse.
I like
it. What is it called? One of the very first arcs, the very first arc probably of the Clone Wars, Malevolence is what it's called. The Malevolence arc of Clone Wars. They actually take the big maneuver from the Thrawn book and put it in there. So in a way, it was kind of scooped by Filoni already. Or stolen.
Mount Tantus.
Geek says, "Woohoo! I am the new host. Damn, Rob is back." when I pulled you. Okay. So
here
we go. All right. So what do you think, Mr. Furious? I can't hear you, Mr. Furious, but you are welcome to come on the show whenever you want. Just DM me. All right. You're back.
I'm just a strandcast of Rob.
You're a strand. I hate to tell you the truth, but you're actually a strandcast of Geek Furious. First.
This plot is getting thick.
Darth
Windu thick.
Mace Windu. His name is Mace Windu, and they throw him through a window. You guys get it?
Mace Windu. No, I never thought about that until now.
and then Anakin and Anakin and Palpatine go to the space opera. Yeah, it's all on the nose with George Lucas, man.
That one I legitimately had figured out the night before that podcast. That's crazy.
Yeah. Did you I know you probably are aware, but are you aware that the original character that he came up with for Star Wars was Mace Windu?
Yeah, it was.
That was like the first,
and the Bendu Knights, and yeah, I read that all those original drafts and stuff.
Yeah, and and then you get the other Mace in the Ewok movies or the Ewok Adventure, and there's this article with that actor, and he's talking about he's like, oh, after I saw the prequels, I should have been Anakin. I could have done such a better job, and I'm like, I don't know about that.
He said that.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we all say we could do a better job until it's on you to make it, and you're like, ooh. Can I get $100 million to not do it?
Yeah. I have a feeling Jake Lloyd might feel like that right now.
Yeah.
He's
like, I literally tried to steal $100 million to prove it. Didn't work out.
Yeah, it's I feel really, really bad for that kid. He got so much shit and then developed schizophrenia. So, and then I can't believe that. I'll never understand how somebody who has developed schizophrenia can go to jail. Like that, just to me, it seems fucking crazy. You know what I mean?
America, bro. It's a brutal society.
Yeah, it's like it's like what was happening there wasn't him going, oh, I'm a child actor on a bender, different strokes, bitch, and you know what I mean? It's literally mental illness, and they're just
You,
like,
you
oh,
know
it's
who could
terrible.
envision it, Jason? Is Gary Kurtz. That's why he electrocutes Dorothy in the Return to Oz for the first 5 minutes of that movie.
It's true. Darth Del Rio, how's it going, Mr. Rio? I do. His name is Rio, and he's dancing in the sand. But is it Jakku or is it Tatooine? We'll never know. I do agree that the animation has given us bigger, better battles and more creative environments than the films have. Yeah, it is kind of true. I mean, it's both. It's both a failing of the films and a testament to the greatness of the animation at times. Is that it? Like when you get down to it, they're all stemming from the same computer generated, made up nonsense isn't the right way to put it, but whatever, fake stuff, fake ideas. And so it costs a lot of money. And so the films, I feel like sometimes don't ever really graduate far beyond it. But it's the best when the cartoons elevate to it. So
How much money would you pay to see Adam Driver pull off one of those Bad Batch run cycles where they hop, 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 like Buzz Lightyear's off the.
let me. Oh, sorry.
Biggest complaint about those cartoons is just the run cycles. They do all these subtle animations that are oh here, come over here, and then hop, 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 hop. Like, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I'm for it. Just so jarring.
It is weird. Yeah. What do you think the idea, or sorry, what do you think the odds are that Ben Solo will get to come back to life?
Oh, over 50%.
Over 50%.
As a
Yeah.
young kid in the Jedi Temple or something like that, we'll see him somehow. Either we'll see Adam Driver come back,
I
or
mean
we'll
straight
see
up.
a young Ben. Oh, Adam Driver straight up come back.
I mean straight up the resurrection
over
of
50%.
over
You know,
50%.
Harrison Ford came back. You can get Adam Driver. You know.
Yeah, that's what I always say too. I'm like,
I'm sorry. What other movies has he been in that's been a major financial draw? Just curious.
yeah, and I think no, I think that's one of those things where Adam Driver comes back and does another Star Wars movie. He's then put into that $1 billion franchise pool of mega blockbuster bullshit, and then he's able.
Rey and giving Ben Solo. You can see it now. You know.
Yeah, no, I think it would be like, I think in a way my best case scenario is that we get a Finn movie, we get a Ben Solo resurrection movie, and then those things culminate with them recreating a Jedi Order that's not Luke doing it by himself, but rather three Luke Skywalkers doing it. And then after that, we go to a time jump and we are back to a future of Star Wars where Jedi exist and there's bad guys, and then the galaxy can erupt again. You know what I mean? But it's like, because that's one of the things I like about the High Republic idea. Not digging the High Republic so much right now, but the High Republic idea is this concept of there are just Jedi out there and they are having adventures and there are conflicts that occur, and that I like, and that I think should sort of be a normal way of organizing Star Wars. I still hope for that Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers kind of thing where, oh, now we're in this empire is over here, and oh, over here they're a free society in this galaxy. Like I hope that they don't return to this unified idea again, because then it has to go back to the same stuff. If you have a galaxy of chaos, then there's just the stories can go on and on and on, and it's fun. That's the way. That's my hope anyway.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, in the same way that there's multiple feuding lords and emperors in a period of Japan, you know?
Yeah.
To bring it back to that samurai
For sure.
thing.
Yeah.
You know?
And I know very little about that, but I have heard about it before. and I've seen movies about it before, so I don't want to act like I'm like, yes,
I have
yes,
heard of this vaguely
yes, Rob.
in the back of my mind. I agree.
You're-
You're correct,
you're-
white person. You know all about it. Yeah.
You're reminding me of the Shang Dynasty. Yes, of
Don't do it. By the way, I was re-listening to the Sub-Zero on a separate note.
Yeah,
Mortal Kombat song, and it's called Chinese Ninja Warrior. Like, how do you even Chinese ninjas? Never a thing, by the way. Chinese Ninja Warrior.
Wait, no, actually, you're wrong because Sub-Zero is a Chinese Ninja Warrior.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I guess that is so cold. He actually shivers when he it's cold. It's the greatest 90s song ever. Yeah, if they had vocal distortion in '94, they would have put it in right there.
Yeah. God, I'm about to buy one today, by the way.
200 Mortal Kombat the album?
No, this is plug-in that I want for music that all the people I like use, and it costs $200, and I'm like, oh, am I gonna pull it? I'm gonna pull, like, I have it in the cart and everything right now. I keep going back and forth, like, I really want this. I'll have it forever once I have it. Sub-Zero didn't have it, but I can. And
I mean, there are a lot of gigs you can play right now with it. You know, I mean, if you can make your money back, you know, I get it.
No, just making my old recordings with it, but
all right.
yeah. But anyways, I think we're going to call this one a show. We're only 5 minutes before the 2 hour mark, which isn't too bad.
Jesus, like the minute we talk about Mortal Kombat, we're ending this.
Mortal Kombat, God, dude, as kids, by the way, Mortal Kombat came out at puberty, and there you go, suns are setting, and we would go to walk home, and Randy every day would want to play Mortal Kombat, and I was just always like, oh my God, I don't have time for this shit. I didn't want to learn Mortal Kombat because I learned Street Fighter, and I was just like, I
don't like the animation.
I was just like, nah, I'm good. But
I thought the aesthetic of Mortal Kombat 2 was cool, but the animation's still stiff, so I didn't give a shit.
My kid, though, has completely is the revenge of the nerds of my teenage years. He loves Doom. He makes me download Doom WADs for him, and he loves Mortal Kombat. So I'm pretty sure I am raising my best friend as a kid. Actually, Randy wasn't a big Doom guy.
Cast,
my own. Yeah, and everybody go to Santa's workshop. Go over to Star Wars Santa now, and let's party with him. And thanks to everybody for coming today. As you can see in the bottom here, become a channel member, support the show on Patreon, get the audio only versions. And thank you to everybody who has so far supported the show. This new camera, not sure if you can tell, but it looks better to me on my end. So I hope it is. I hope you see your tax dollars at work, your Star Wars tax dollars at work. But before we go, one last thing though. George Lucas always always talks about how it's not about spaceships, and I totally disagree with him. I think he's kind of a fucking idiot on it.
It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.